Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome.
There's a time when the operation of the machine becomes so odious, makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part. And you've got to put your bodies upon the gears and upon the wheels, upon the levers, upon all the apparatus, and you've got to make it stop. And you've got to indicate to the people who run it, to the people who own it, that unless you're free, the machine will be prevented from working at all. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
As long as the Matrix exists, the human race will never be free.
Start somewhere. It has to start sometime. What better place than here? What better time than now?
Terrorists! Terrorize this.
I know you're out there. I can feel you now. I know that you're afraid. You're afraid of us. You're afraid of change. I don't know the future. I didn't come here to tell you how this is going to end. I came here to tell you how it's going to begin. I'm going to hang up this phone, and then I'm going to show these people what you don't want them to see. I'm going to show them a world without you. A world without rules and controls, without borders or boundaries. A world where anything is possible. Where we go from there is a choice I leave to you.
I've been on a little hiatus, and you know, I'm wondering, is there even a reason to do a radio show at this point? So let me check. Let me just check. Let's check some headlines. Make sure that there's a reason to continue on here. Oh, I see the White House has suppressed the information as far as the latest USA credit downgrade. I wonder why they don't want to let us know about that. Now, I see the mainstream media is purveying the racial divide as much as it can throughout the country. Okay, so obviously the New World Order agenda is still rolling right along, and that means there's a reason to do a radio program, so let's do the radio program. Greetings, free thinkers, evolutionaries, preppers, survivalists, and truth seekers. It is Monday, April 9th, 2012, and you have, after a short hiatus, you have once again found yourselves here on the front lines in this war on our humanity. And I am your point man, your sheepdog, if you will, Darren Stone, broadcasting to you live from the FEMA East region of them all, everybody. That's right, FEMA Region 1. Tonight's call-in number is 917-889-3064. Should you get the yarbles to let your voice be heard? And for those of you that don't know what yarbles are, well, then you've never seen Clockwork Orange. But for those of you that get it, yarbles, or actually, for those that don't get it, yarbles come in a set, and they're usually owned by men. So if you have the yarbles, let your voice be heard. Because remember, kids, standing at the edge of a ditch with your back to men with guns because you thought something you weren't supposed to be thinking is not the time to let your voice be heard. So dial it up, 917-889-3064, and we're going to rip right through these plugs since we wasted time already. Frontradio.net is still there doing its thing, all-encompassing website of truth and information, health info, truthful news information, I guess we'll call it, weather information. If you're jonesing for some natural disasters, just click on the real-time natural disaster map, and it's all there for you, whatever you want. Tsunamis, hurricanes, volcanoes, earthquakes, biological disasters, mass animal deaths, terrorist attacks, whatever you want. It's all there, real time. Okay, live global disaster map. From the Front's website, you can hit our Twitter account. It is the Front at Twitter. The O is a 0 in that Front there on Twitter. And our YouTube page. Check out all the archives, or I think we have, 49 archives, the past 49 episodes up there right now. I don't know what it is. It's a bunch. You should be well informed. Let's just say if you rip through all the shows on YouTube, and of course you can check out every single broadcast we've ever done on Blog Talk Radio here on Blog Talk Radio's archives. Shoot me an email at thefront@live.com if you have anything any pertinent information, groovy pictures. You want to tell me the show needs something. You want to say the show is like the greatest thing ever, or you just want to tell me it sucks. Whatever you want. Thefront@live.com. And as far as T-shirts go, everybody, just an announcement on the T-shirts. I'm all out of smalls, mediums. I have a couple larges left, and obviously most front listeners are small. So the smalls and mediums went first. And we have plenty of XL and double XL out there. So you larger front listeners, feel free. Shoot me an email. Send you a T-shirt. All right. Check out these pages on Facebook, everybody. Rad Chick on Facebook. Pretty much probably the most important page on Facebook, I'd say, as far as information about what's going on in the world. Because the radioactivity and the Fukushima debacle nightmare is there's nothing else really besides that, to be honest with you. Revolution will be televised. He's here in chat. Nice seeing you, brother. And they're like a monster truther page on Facebook. Revolution will be televised. Like almost 4,000 people on that page, and a couple other pages for you guys to check out. We the Sheeple, another good truther page, and Shattered Illusions on Facebook. Check those guys out. All right. So let me get into what the hell I was doing. Okay. I'll plug New World Order News. All right. New World Order News on Facebook. All right. So just a brief explanation of my absence, my hiatus, my disappearance. There's a lot of crap going on in my life personally, and since this is a one-man radio show, it's all on my shoulders, right? So got a lot of crazy stuff going on, man. A lot of financial problems, going through a divorce, and I'm not here bitching and moaning about it. I'm just telling you guys that my dedication, my persistence, and my focus on what we do here is not wavering because I don't want to do this anymore. It's just the other stuff kind of takes over. And if I had somebody preparing a show for me to come in and do a show twice a week for an hour and a half, would be no big deal. It's the time it takes to put the show together that I run into some issues, but we're working on it, and we're back. And look, there may be some more cancellations as the summer goes on because I'm going to be moving and all kinds of crazy stuff going on, but we're going to do the best to stay as regular as possible. So bear with us, and look, if the front's not on a Monday or Thursday night, you just go outside, you kick back on your porch, and you have a cold one. It's fine. It's all right. It's all right. All right. So there's all that stuff. Look, we have a lot of – you see the description for tonight's show. We're going to start off with an alien invasion clip. I know most of you people probably were not watching the Today Show on Easter Sunday. I sure wasn't because I don't have television, and I wouldn't watch that program anyway. I'd rather watch the Looney Tunes because I'll get more pertinent information from Bugs and Daffy than I will from the talking heads on the Today Show. But I guess, and this usually happens. When you get used to the news cycle, you'll see that strange and offbeat and somewhat important things come out in during the weekend news or Friday night news. You can say that I'm a little paranoid, but I believe that happened on purpose. Because, look, the news that you get Monday through Thursday, Monday through Friday afternoon is really not all that important. We're not going to go into my view of the news because we do that all the time on the show. But, on Sunday we had an alien invasion clip. And now I'm going to play the clip, all right? And I'm not playing this clip because, for you new listeners, no, I don't know if we're going to get invaded by aliens. I would never claim to know such a thing. I could never prove it to you. I can never disprove it to you, just like none of you out there could do that either. So all we can do is speculate. But what we do know from some research, some Googling, that there's something out there called Project Bluebeam. When you first hear about Project Bluebeam, it sounds pretty kooky, pretty hokey. But when you look further and you look at people who have talked about Project Bluebeam, it seems to add a little more validity to it. Well, so it is what it is, right? Well, if you know anything about the supposed New World Order agenda, and by the way, for you new listeners, the New World Order is not a conspiracy theory. It's been talked about in many presidential State of the Union addresses, or maybe I shouldn't say many, but a few. It's been talked about. It's been talked about by heads of state. It's rolled off the lips of many people who form legislation and have influence over our lives. So it's not a conspiracy theory. And the agenda for the New World Order is to somehow unite the peoples of the world under one global government. Now, that sounds all fine and dandy and cozy, and it sounds like a great idea. And on the surface, hey, it would be a great idea. I don't think we should have countries myself. I don't think we need them. I think if people were left to their own devices in a different type of society, that none of those things would be necessary. All right? And I know some people are going to say, well, you're crazy. I just drove to work today, and there's nothing but a-holes out there. I understand what you're saying. But you have to understand that many a-holes were created by the system itself because they think certain things are important, and they just are not. So, that being said, the agenda for the New World Order is to get us all to unify under a global governmental system. And one of the ways that they thought about doing that, one of the easiest way to get people to do that is to unite them against a common enemy. So the agenda goes something like this: a mock alien invasion to get the masses of people to all unite together to fight this supposed enemy. And people are going to say, well, Darren, how the hell would that happen if they were going to, how would they fake an alien invasion? It's pretty simple. There is weather technology out there. There's holographic technology out there that will fool you, pretty much. We can think about things like the Ghost City in China. That was a holographic image. Arnold Schwarzenegger, when he did the release of Last Action Hero, used a holographic image of himself over the Chinese theater in Hollywood. Al Gore has done many speaking engagements as a holographic image. So, it could be possible. And if you think back to H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds back in the 50s, was it the 50s? I think it was the 50s. Was it the 50s? I'm not quite sure when that was. But anyway, that, if you look at that a little deeper, seems to have been some type of sociological experiment. It's the only reason why you would terrify a nation and tell them that they're being attacked by aliens, just to see what they would do. I don't know. Dry run. You look at people are going to look at this and they're going to say, look, Darren, that happened so long ago. But you have to understand that most of us just look at this type of thing from our life, from the short time that we ourselves are here. What you have to understand is that the plan, the agenda, okay, for implementing world government is probably more than a century old. And the people that are pushing this, controlling this, that agenda is passed down generation through them. So just because people don't really realize or don't think that this could be going on, you're only referring to what you've seen and known in your life. Now, I can use plenty of examples that might alert you to this, like the devaluation of your currency, but I'm not going to go into that. I just wanted to give a little background on the reason for me playing this alien invasion clip. So this is actually on mainstream media, and if you listen to how ridiculous this is, and wording is extremely important, where they use words, how they use words. So I'll shut up. I'll play this clip. It is for just about 4 minutes long. But in this clip, look, they say, look, we're going to have to unite with the Taliban to fight the aliens. That's right. We're going to have to unite with the Taliban to fight off alien invaders. Look at people. Obviously, the Taliban is pretty tough, okay? Because we just can't seem to win this war on terror. So even though the Taliban wasn't the terrorists, that's who we're going to fight now. But, okay, well, we're not going to do that whole confusing thing. Anyway, here is the alien invasion clip. Check it out.
Now, an alien invasion, could it really happen? The U.S. military is making plans just in case.
What are the official plans for contact with extraterrestrials? Will they come in peace or war? And what can humanity do in the face of alien invasion?
Yes, it is best to be prepared for anything, and Professor Paul Springer from the U.S. Air Command and Staff College would advise the military in the event of an invasion. He had to get special government clearance to talk to us, and I spoke to him earlier. Paul, it's an incredibly difficult thing, isn't it, to plan to fight back against an enemy we would know absolutely nothing about?
Well, that's absolutely true, but at the same time, we make all kinds of contingency and war plans against enemies that we never expected to face in combat. And so the idea that maybe the enemy will have something technological or doctrinal that we've never foreseen is something that we try to plan for any way that we can.
Well, obviously, if we did get invaded, these aliens would be much more technologically advanced than we are because we didn't even know they were there. How would you go about fighting an enemy that was just so infinitely superior in technology?
Well, the first thing you'd want to try to do is preserve your forces as best you could. You would want to learn as much about the enemy as possible, and that would mean things like trying to find vulnerabilities, trying to capture technology, but survival is your first priority, because if you send all of your forces into the field and have them destroyed by that superior enemy force, then when you do find a vulnerability, you won't have any opportunity to exploit it.
What do you think would be the alien plan? What would they do first?
That really depends on why they're here in the first place. If they're here for the extraction of a specific resource, for example, they might want to just eliminate any resistance that might block them from their objective. If, on the other hand, their goal was actual occupation and conquest, then they would probably have to prioritize anything that they perceive to be a threat to their own dominance. And so that would probably start by wiping out as many communications networks as possible and eliminating as many weapons as might represent some form of threat either to them or to the resources that they're trying to extract. So they might very well want to counter every nuclear weapon, not because it represented a threat to them, but because it might destroy whatever they're here to collect.
Is this something, this kind of planning, that governments around the world do consider?
It is, in the same way that governments do plan for any future potential calamities or conflicts. This is the type of thing that, because it's neutral, you're not provoking a fight or assuming a fight with a country that you might want to maintain a good diplomatic relationship with. If you insert alien in place of some human civilization that you might come into conflict with, then you're far less likely to create any kind of a diplomatic problem.
Wouldn't it be a strange situation if humanity had to band together if we were fighting alongside, I guess, Russia or the Taliban?
It would, but keep in mind that many of the greatest civilizations in human history have been formed basically to counter a common enemy. And you look at some of the great world powers of the globe today, and you find a lot of them formed because of the fear of a common enemy. Take, for example, the United States, where you had 13 colonies, each of which pursued its own interest and its own goals until they had to band together to try to win their independence collectively from the British.
You make some very good points, and we're lucky to have you should the worst arise. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, we're lucky to have that guy, just in case we get invaded by aliens. Because, like he said, you know, when you're facing it, you got to prepare for an unknown threat. You know, look, like you said, they do it all the time. They prepare for these unknown threats all the time. Except the thing that he fails to mention is that the threats he's normally preparing for are human. You know, the funny thing is when you watch the clip, it's actually up on the Front's Facebook page and on the on frontradio.net. they're like, would they be friendly? Would they be harmful? But yet, all they're showing in the video for this clip is nothing but just utter death and destruction from aliens. So the message is trying to be sent there. And if you look at all the different alien movies that have come out over the past 2 years, none of them are friendly. Okay, none of them are E.T. All right, it's all it's like Skyline, where they're sucking us up and eating our brains, sucking us up with a massive vacuum cleaner by the thousands and eating our brains. So anyway, just some mental, psychological, whatever you want to call it, conditioning for the masses, preparing you for an alien invasion. Hey, look, if it happens, I don't know if it's going to be real or not. I have no idea. We had reports. There's reports of UFOs shutting down nuclear reactors last year. I mean, military reports. So, who knows? Who knows who's telling the truth? But that's why we refer back to the agenda. And this is something I learned about a long time ago. Actually, Bill Cooper talked about the government. In his book, Behold the Pale Horse, talked about the government staging a mock alien invasion to bring in the New World Order. And he talked about this, back in the mid-'90s, I believe. So, actually have that book right here. So, there you go. There you go. So, if it happens, you know why it's happening. 3.5 earthquake just hit the island of Hawaii just now. All right, on to some more serious fodder. Before the front went off the air for a little while, we talked about the military bringing to the streets of America their heat ray. And we talked about how it has a 3-second shut-off button. And all the while, the military spokespeople are telling us that it can't really harm you. It just feels like it's harming you. But yet they go on to say it has an automatic 3-second shutoff if you're being shot with it. My question was, what happens if someone turns off 3-second delay and you're getting zapped by this thing? And that brought me back to images and videos I saw years ago out of Iraq, where there was Iraqi citizens, holding dead relatives, screaming, crying, and pleading. I don't understand the language, so I can't tell you what they were saying, but they seem to be pointing at their relatives like, what the hell? And you look at the bodies and they're melted. The faces, it was almost like the face melted from the inside of the mouth out, okay? And the clothes were not burned. So it was a very strange thing. And now here we go, little more than a year later, the heat ray comes to the streets of America. Well, not to be outdone by the heat ray, but the Japanese developed a gun that actually prevents you from being able to form words. You can just kind of grunt. You can't form a word. But not to be outdone by the Japanese, the Russians take it one step further, and they have developed something they call the zombie gun, which attacks the victim's central nervous system. And it says this gun could be used against Russia's enemies and perhaps its own dissidents. Well, the dissidents are the enemies. Yeah, that's how it goes. Okay. So here's a little info on this zombie gun. Mind-bending psychotronic gun that can effectively turn people into zombies have been given the go-ahead by Russian President Vladimir Putin. The futuristic weapons will attack the central nervous system of their victims, are being developed by the country's scientists. They could be used, like I said, against Russia's enemies, and perhaps its own dissidents by the end of the decade. End of the decade, yeah, sure. That's why they're telling us now. Sources in Moscow say Mr. Putin has described the guns, which use electromagnetic radiation like that found in microwave ovens, as entirely new instruments for achieving political and strategic goals. Yes, turning people into zombies would definitely do it. Mr. Putin added that, quote, such high-tech weapon systems will be comparable in effect to nuclear weapons, but will be more acceptable in the terms of political and military ideology. Mr. Serdukov said, quote, the development of weaponry based on new physics principles, i.e. direct energy weapons, geophysical weapons, wave energy weapons, genetic weapons, psychotronic weapons, and so on, is part of the State of the Arms Procurement Program for 2011 to 2020. All right, my friend in the chat room is taking off. Revolution will be televised. Take it easy, brother. So scientific proposals on developing the weapons are due to be drawn up before December by a new Defense Advanced Research Project Agency. I got sucked right into that. That's DARPA, Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. So is it really Russia that's developing these things? Is it really Japan? I don't know. Research into electromagnetic weapons has been secretly carried out in the U.S. and Russia since the 50s, but now it appears Mr. Putin has stolen a march on the Americans. Precise details of the Russian gun have not been revealed. However, previous research has shown that low-frequency waves or beams can affect brain cells after psychological states and make it possible to transmit suggestions and commands directly into someone's thought processes. Well, hot damn, we've only been talking about this for what, 10 years? People, the same waves they're talking about here are the same type of waves that are emitted out of your television. Did you know that? Yeah. These waves are called ELF waves and can travel through anything. And they affect our mood, and they can cover vast areas of landscape. They could cover an entire country. Let me explain. There's something out there called HAARP, to you new listeners. It stands for a Highly Active Auroral Research Program. I believe it's what it stands for. And what HAARP does, HAARP is made up of thousands of tiny radio transmitter antennas that are aimed at a focal point in the sky. And so when all the little antennas start to beam out their signals, they meet at this certain point in the sky and form one big badass beam of electromagnetic energy. For those of you that saw the movie Star Wars, when the Death Star was blowing up the planet Alderaan with its big planet blow-up ray, and you saw those little rays come together and then form one big ray that blew up the planet, that's pretty much what you're looking at with HAARP. And they take this beam and they bounce it off the ionosphere and they heat it and they control weather. They can produce holographic images. They can influence the mood of a nation. Okay? So, think about this. Let's use something in the news today. Trayvon Martin. I think you heard of it. First thing you want to ask yourself is, why have you heard of it? And why is it being shoved down your throat? That's a whole other subject I'm not going to get into right now. But let's just take Trayvon Martin, and let's take the racial division that this is causing. So combine some emotionally charged supposed news story that really has nothing to do with any of us. Is it a terrible thing that someone got shot and killed? Yes, it is. So I'm not making light of that. What I'm trying to do is explain how it can be used in conjunction with something like these radio waves that I'm telling you about out of this article from this Russian weapon. So we have an emotionally charged story. We bathe the country in certain electromagnetic frequencies that make people more irritable, make you have problems sleeping. It just gives you an overall mood of ugh. And how are you going to react to this emotionally charged story now? You're going to react in probably an angry way, right? Not a rational way, not a free thinking, not a critical thinking type of way, but you'll react in an angry way. So the purpose of that would be to just keep you angry and stupid. You know? I mean, come on, we're in year 2012, and we supposedly, you know, have moved beyond racism. You know, most of us have. I mean, none of us probably were even involved in the first place, but we thought we were moving beyond this. But who pervades this throughout society? Is it the you know, the default racist people think of in their head as some extreme right-winger from the South? You know, when you think racist, that's what you're going to think. Right? Is it really those people that are causing it? No, it's not. It's the mass media. It's the mainstream media shoving it down your throat. It's political figures. Even the president came out and said, if I had a son, he would have been like Trayvon. Now, is that a responsible thing for a president to do, or does it seem like they're trying to divide and conquer, which is a tool that's been used forever? I mean, if the president was acting in a responsible manner, he would say, "Okay, everybody, let's just calm down until we get all the facts, and let's not do anything rash. You know, everybody just relax." But no, he had to stoke the fires. Well, it's not an accident. But anyway, so back to electromagnetic rays, weapons, energy, all that kind of stuff. So here you go. There is the Russian gun. Let's see. Anything else to talk about here as far as this Russian gun goes? Here we go. So like I said, research into electromagnetic weapons has been recently carried out in the U.S. and Russia since the 50s. You know, a lot of people believe that the events of 9/11 were directed energy weapons. Just a little blurb on that. The reason people think that is because of the displacement of matter, allowing the buildings to fall in a free fall state, with no impedance and nothing getting in the way. And on the day of 9/11, there was a massive hurricane off the coast of Cape Cod, and most people don't remember that. And I'm gonna forget the name of the hurricane. I do not remember the name of the hurricane right now, so I apologize. But it's a coil, and they would have used that energy to direct the and to fuel the directed energy weapons. Look, there's cars on I believe it's Washington Avenue, which is in front of the World Trade Center's complex, and one side of these cars all on the street was burnt to a crisp. The other side, no. Some cars were flipped over. These are things they don't tell you in the mainstream, and I don't claim to know what happened. I'm just tying some things together with the admission here in this mainstream article that electromagnetic weapons have been being used in the U.S. and Russia since the 50s. Okay? So anyway, there you go. High doses of microwaves can damage the functioning of internal organs, control behavior, or even drive victims to suicide. And this is a highly serious weapon, says Anatoly, and I cannot pronounce his last name because it's Russian, and he's head of the Military Forecasting Center in Moscow. He goes on to say, quote, when it was used for dispersing a crowd and it was focused on a man, his body temperature went up immediately as if he was thrown into a hot frying pan. Still, we know very little about this weapon, and even Special Forces guys can hardly cope with it. All right. So, like I said in my post about this, with the development of the heat ray on the streets of America now, the mute ray developed by Japan, and the zombie gun developed by the Russians, it seems as though world peace is right around the corner, doesn't it? We're definitely moving in the right direction, right? We just got to kill a few more million people, and we'll have world peace. All right. On to something even more serious. Department of Homeland Security. All right. Don't worry, we're going to round this show out with some positive stuff, right? Got some good health stuff coming up. All right, so Department of Homeland Security, everybody, just contracted a company called Alliant Techsystems, and Alliant Techsystems was awarded the contract and will produce .40 caliber high-performance bullets for Department of Homeland Security. They've been contracted to produce 450 million hollow point 40 caliber high-performance bullets for Department of Homeland Security. 450 million rounds of hollow points. Now, DHS says, well, those are for target practice. Anybody who shoots knows you don't shoot your hollow points at targets. It's a waste. There's no point in it. Hollow points are meant to kill you, okay? When the bullet strikes your body, the hollow point causes the lead to disperse and mushroom out, so it tears as much of your internal organs apart as possible. You wouldn't waste that on a paper target or any other type of target. So the excuse that it's for target practice, just doesn't seem right. Seems like bull. Now, the other thing to consider with the Department of Homeland Security getting their hands on 450 million rounds of hollow points is that Department of Homeland Security is a national organization. So they must be planning on using 450 million rounds right here on American soil. For what? Anybody want to raise their hand out there? Anybody have any ideas? Well, look, I'm not going to sit here and tell you, what they're going to use them for, because I really don't know. But if we were going to take an educated guess, if we were in Vegas and we're going to slap a bet down on it, we might say that they're preparing for social unrest, or maybe something worse. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe the 450 million rounds is for the aliens coming in. Could be. But anyway, listen. I have a clip about this. I'm going to play it, and then I'm going to follow it up with another order DHS put in to complement their 450 million rounds of hollow points. So here, check out this clip from Russia Today, talking about DHS's new order for these hollow points. Here you go.
Well, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, along with the U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement Office, have placed a large and rather interesting order. They've ordered 450 million rounds of ammunition to be made and delivered to them over the next 5 years. Now, the company Alliant Techsystems, or ATK, was awarded the contract to manufacture 40 caliber ammunition high-performance bullets. Apparently these bullets, quote, provide optimum penetration for terminal performance. This refers to the way the tip of the bullet passes through barriers and expands, all the while holding its jacket in the toughest conditions. All right, so this is interesting because this is not the Pentagon making the order for the military. It's DHS and ICE. And to give you a little perspective here, there are only about 311 million people living in the entire country, so it begs the question, why such a massive order, 450 million bullets? David Seaman is a journalist and host of the DL Show. He's in our Miami studios, and I'm hoping he might be able to give us a little perspective on this. David, why does the DHS need 450 million hollow point bullets?
Hi, Christine. Well, the DHS, Department of Homeland Security, just to be clear with your viewers, consists of the TSA, the Transportation Security Administration, and Immigration Services, among other divisions. So, exactly, this is not the U.S. military. This is a domestic law enforcement agency, and the TSA are basically glorified bag screeners and airport screeners. That was their original congressional mandate, was to screen passengers before they get on an airplane. So the question really is, why do they need 450 million rounds of ammunition? And to be fair, some people online who don't want to believe what's going on have said that this is just going to be used for target practice, or also it could be that the government is simply stockpiling ammunition because they don't want to get into a situation where there's an ammo shortage and our law enforcement officers don't have any ammunition. And those are both fair points. But that kind of ammo that they purchased from ATK, hollow point ammunition, as you had explained, it's designed to, tear through human flesh and then expand. It's designed to kill people. This is not the optimal kind of ammo you would buy for target practice. It's more expensive,
and it's more precise.
I think that's a really interesting point to bring up. And I'm wondering, too, I mean, certainly there are a lot of layers here when we talk about the DHS purchasing this. There's not really been sort of a concrete answer as to why. But I'm wondering if there's not, a larger discussion to be had here. I mean, we're seeing gun sales in the U.S. at an all-time high. We've already seen the DHS begin hiring armed security guards to protect federal buildings. Do you think this is a sign that they're preparing for some sort of mass civil unrest?
Well, the DHS, the people within it, TSA agents, they are not federal agents, so they're not as well trained, they're not as well vetted. These are the kinds of people who think that grandmothers and little children are a threat to national security when they go through an airport. And to give all of these agents so much firepower, it really does make you wonder if they know something that the American people do not know about. And they have an open bid right now, DHS, for even more ammunition, for 175 million rounds of .223 caliber rifle ammo, which some people online have brought up as almost identical to the ammunition used by NATO peacekeeping forces. So that's very interesting. Are they planning on some kind of widespread economic unrest in the U.S. that would require NATO forces to help us out? I really don't know. But one thing I do know is that I don't like to inject my own opinion into these reports all the time, but if the Founding Fathers were alive today, they would be disgusted. We're rapidly militarizing our domestic law enforcement officers, and, I think a lot of people are scared. TSA is scary enough. Wait until they all have guns.
Well,
and you can't speak back when they're groping you at the airport.
TSA, I mean, as you say, they are part of the Department of Homeland Security. Certainly the largest terrorist attack in our memorable history happened due to poor screening at airports, I guess you could say. But it is also Immigrations and Customs Enforcement. I mean, have you seen any indications that perhaps there's going to be a larger crackdown along this nation's borders? I mean, could that be part of it?
Certainly that's a possibility, although I don't see hundreds of millions of people flooding into America from Mexico or Canada anytime soon. The jobs that were once here are no longer here. I really don't understand it. I keep trying to put my head around it, and, you try out different scenarios. Why do they need this much ammo? And certainly target practice is one option, but even if they're burning through 20 million rounds a month to train their agents, this is still overkill. This is still too much. So best case scenario, this is sort of a waste of taxpayers' money. And worst case scenario is, as you said, they're planning for economic unrest or violent protests or something that requires hollow point ammunition on a wide scale.
And some of the largest protests that we've seen certainly just happened in the last 6 months or so, the Occupy Wall Street protests. And, like you, David, I was kind of reading up on this, and there are a lot of theories as well that there's sort of a connection between DHS and the police forces in this country, particularly in the Occupy Wall Street crackdown. I know DHS agents, it's been confirmed, have been involved in various ways in many of the Occupy movements around the country. But I'm wondering what's going on in terms of, I mean, is there a line, is that line now blurred between DHS and local and regional police forces?
I think there has been, from what I've been reading online, there has been some federal involvement in local police crackdowns on peaceful protesters. And we're really seeing a shift where the government, both in the court of public opinion and in our laws, is trying to criminalize peaceful protesters and turn them into something more than what they actually are. When you have a bunch of college kids banging on drums and, asking for people to address issues like income inequality or the foreclosure crisis, those people are not really a threat to national security. And yet, the Department of Homeland Security, as I've seen online, they might be involved in some of the intelligence gathering, and it concerns me, and I think it concerns pretty much anybody out there who's seeing what's happening.
Certainly a lot of people concerned, and again, we still have no sort of confirmation as to exactly what these will be used for. Who knows if that will ever come out, but it's an interesting discussion. I think it's important for our viewers to see exactly what's going on here. Again, that this purchase was made not by the Pentagon, but by DHS for 450 million rounds of ammunition. David Seaman, journalist and host of the DL Show.
450 million rounds of ammunition. That's 1.2 rounds per American. So don't worry. They've got one for everybody and a little extra. Look, you know what this reminds me of? Reminds me of when I was a boy. No, I'm just kidding. No, actually it does. I grew up on a farm, all right, and we used to slaughter animals. I hated it. And whenever like let's say we're getting ready to slaughter some chickens. You have to boil water because you cut the chicken's head off, and then you let it bleed out, and then you put the chicken body in the boiling water so you can defeather it. And I always thought, man, you know, you have the fire going out there in the yard, you have the chopping block with the axe, you have the pot boiling water, and all the chickens can see it. They can all see what's going on. They don't run away. And I used to think to myself when I was a little kid, I used to pray. I used to just wish, oh, please, chickens, please realize what's going on here and start running into the woods. You know? Because I didn't want my stepfather to get a hold of the chickens and cut their heads off. But that's what would happen. And it happened every single time. And the chickens could see the pot boiling. They could see the axe being sharpened. They could see the chopping block. They'd even see other chickens getting their heads cut off, and they still wouldn't run. That's what this reminds me of. How much do we need? I understand people are starting to, wake up. We need to do more than wake up. With the passing of the Patriot Act 1 and 2, the National Defense Authorization Act, the Expatriation Act, the Media Monitoring Initiative, and the No Trespassing Act, and this recent Supreme Court ruling saying that police can strip search you anywhere, anytime, for anything. A recent Supreme Court ruling. Now we have our national defense organization, I guess we'll call it, Department of Homeland Security, buying up 450 million rounds of high-performance hollow point bullets. To tack onto that order, they also ordered bullet-resistant booths. Yes, some bullet-resistant booths. I guess they plan on being shot at by something. So, the Department of Homeland Security recently stoked concern by contracting a company to provide them with 450 million rounds of hollow point bullets. Now the federal agency is also purchasing bulletproof checkpoint booths that include stop-and-go lights. A press release from the shelter's direct brags about how they are providing the DHS with bullet-resistant guard booths. I'll be posting this article up after the show. With images of the booths. Okay. Suggests the guard shack will be used to control checkpoints. This guard building features a standing seam hip roof, a through-wall HVAC unit, some 3 sliding doors, and bullet resistance level 3 glass and low E coating. I don't know what low E coating is. Other noticeable highlights of this prefabricated steel building include metal halide security lighting, decorative window grill frames. Oh, it's got some decorative window grill frames. And a stop-and-go light with controls, states the press release. The purpose behind the bulletproof booths is unknown, but DHS has publicly announced that it plans to increase the number of unannounced checkpoints manned by TSA Viper teams. It's such a cozy feeling. Oh, don't worry, little Susie. It's just a Viper team. It's nothing scary. Doesn't Viper team sound friendly? No? Huh. By TSA Viper teams and other federal agents beyond the 9,300 that were set up last year alone. The Department of Homeland Security Federal Protective Service stoked controversy in January when it set up a checkpoint and posted agents armed with semi-automatic guns outside a Social Security office in Florida. This is a true story. I actually covered it on one of the shows a while ago. That's right. DHS, federal agents armed with semi-automatic guns stood guard outside a Social Security office in Florida and checked everybody's ID as they came in to get their Social Security checks. Or cash them, whatever you do there. The armed agents checked identifications of locals and they were running an operation. This was a drill called Operation Shield. at the Social Security office in Florida, which was an unannounced drill centered around, quote, detecting the presence of unauthorized persons and potentially disruptive or dangerous activities, end quote. Now, Social Security offices, I guess, are now a focal point of national security. I've never been to one. I'm not of age to collect Social Security, and even if when I am, it won't be worth collecting. So it says, last week, defense contractor ATK announced that ATK, which was the one that got authorized for the 450 rounds. Okay, let me see. This is going into repetitive information here. Blah, 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 blah. With guns and ammo flying off the shelves at record levels due to fears that a second term in office for Obama could lead to a fresh assault on Second Amendment rights, the DHS may be attempting to head off any potential ammo shortage. I don't really think that's it. The feds are also seeking to arm. I mean, every time a Democratic president gets in the office, guns fly off the shelf. The feds are also seeking to arm hundreds of newly hired security guards tasked with protecting government buildings. Some fear that the DHS is preparing for the threat of civil disorder or a crisis in Mexico that will lead to the mass migration of people across the southern border. In December, DHS Chief Janet the Linebacker Napolitano directed Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is also known as ICE, to prepare for a mass influx of immigrants into the United States, calling for the plan to deal with the shelter and processing of large numbers of people. Now, you can take that last paragraph and say, oh, well, everything's okay. They're planning on mass immigration from Mexico. Well, look. The government runs on a need-to-know basis. It's a compartmentalized system, just like the places you work in for the most part. These people that are being told this by Janet Napolitano really have no idea what they're doing. They're just practicing to take care of, mass influx of people or just a mass amount of people. It won't matter if they're Americans or Mexicans. They're just getting trained to deal with massive amounts of people. You get it? All right. So there you go. There's some good news. There's your government looking out for you. Looking out for you. All right. So let's get into some health news for the last portion of the program. Yes, excellent comment in chat. Aren't they seniors? How fast can they move? That's what I thought. Why do I need a semi-automatic rifle to deal with a bunch of senior citizens? I don't. I really don't. And neither did they. It's just conditioning. It's conditioning, and it's fear, is what it is, And that's really fear is the word of the day. People that do radio programs like this one, do websites like thefrontradio.net. A lot of people will accuse us to be fear mongers and all kinds of crazy, ridiculous things like that. But the truth of the matter is that we are not. And the only people that purvey fear is the government and the media. Although they spin it and tell you they scare you, and then they tell you that they're only telling you so they can protect you. But the reality is that they're not protecting you. They didn't protect anybody on 9/11. They haven't stopped any terrorist plot since, because there is none. If you do a little looking into it, you'll see that the supposed 23 terror plots broken up by the FBI, CIA, whoever else you want to give credit to, I think it's FBI actually. All 23 of those terrorist plots were basically formulated. The weapons were provided by, and the people that were, for lack of a better term, fooled or baited into it, were all done by the FBI. Every single one of the supposed terrorist plots in this country were formulated, and the weapons were provided by the FBI. So there really is no terrorist threat, everybody. It's just an excuse to kill you later. All right. Anyway, let's get on to some positive stuff. I have this article about, let's see, for all you preppers out there, you food storers, you chipmunks, you squirrels, whatever. One thing we forget about is protein powders, right? Easy, nice, cheap, cost-effective, stores forever, tastes okay in a pinch, and provides you with protein, which prevents muscle breakdown, which will allow you to defend your compound, whatever it is, against the zombies, against the hordes, against the outlaw biker gangs, whatever it's going to be, you know. So protein powder is definitely a good thing to stock for your shit hit the fan scenario or your food supply. But let's go into a little bit more. When most of us hear the phrase protein powder, we think of a muscle-bound bodybuilder swinging back a thick shake while checking out his biceps in the mirror. Actually, I don't think about that. Just want to make that clear. Don't disregard it though. Protein powder could be an excellent source of calories and protein in a shit hit the fan world. Protein powder requires no refrigeration, even after opening. Requires no further preparation than putting in a jar with liquid and shaking it. Protein powder can take the place of meals if necessary. It comes in many tasty flavors and is easily portable in Ziploc bags for a bug-out scenario. Before you go to the bodybuilding store or supplement aisle to purchase your stash of protein powder, there are a few things to learn about the different types of protein. And so you can make your best decision, right? Which one you're going to buy. Well, let's be honest. In a shit hit the fan scenario, any protein powder will be good. Okay, so it's really not that important. The most common protein source for powders is whey protein. Whey protein is derived from milk when protein concentrate contains some lactose and fats, whereas whey protein isolate is nearly pure protein. People with mild lactose intolerance can generally tolerate the protein isolate, the whey protein. Another source of protein derived from milk is casein protein. Casein moves slowly through the digestive tract and can help you feel full longer. The protein is easily digested by most, but this will definitely cause problems for those who deal with any degree of lactose intolerance. Yeah, if you're lactose intolerant, casein is going to kind of mess you up. But one thing I used to tell my clients as far as casein protein is it's really a good thing to eat before bed. If you're working out and trying to gain lean muscle tissue and lose some body fat, casein protein at night before bed will give your body something to feed off of all night while you sleep. Because the truth is, when your body doesn't have something to eat or to feed on for fuel, and that's really why you eat, is for fuel and energy. I know many people think it's for taste, but that's not really the function. Although taste goes into the whole psychological aspect of food, but we're not going to do that. But the function is to provide fuel. When you don't give your body fuel, your body will not mess around. It will take fuel from you. And the only place in your body where most nutrients are stored is in muscle tissue. So if you're not eating, or if you're starving yourself and you think that less food is better, you are wrong. Okay? Because what happens is when you are starving or you're not giving your body enough calories, it will actually feed on its own muscle tissue. And if you continue that tract or continue that practice, then what happens is as time goes on, your lean body mass starts to deteriorate because you're using it as fuel and your body's actually eating itself, and your body fat level stays the same but actually begins to look and feel worse because you have less lean tissue. Okay? That's how it works. That's how it works for everybody. Now I know and I know because I've trained many people over the last 20 years, and women especially will be like, well, I just don't have to eat that much. I just don't, just because I just don't. Well, I'm sorry to inform you, but unless you are not a human being, then your little starvation trick is not working for you. You're doing yourself more harm than good, and that's why your arm feels mushy. Okay, grab your arm; it feels mushy. That's why. It's because there's less lean tissue in that arm than there is body fat, and the squishy stuff is fat. Okay, so anyways, there's my sermon on starvation and health. So anyways, let's go back into some protein powder for a second. So it says next we have egg white protein. This is an excellent source of pure protein, but these powders are far more expensive. The body processes egg white protein with nearly 100% efficiency. Remember that eggs are a very common allergen. Be careful when sharing this product with others, blah, 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 blah. Finally, there is an array of vegetarian proteins. Hemp, pea, soy, and rice proteins are the most common. These are generally higher in fiber, but the protein is not as bioavailable, which means it's not as easily processed, and it's not as easily used by the body as the protein and other options. The vegetarian powders are generally very expensive, have a lower protein count per scoop, and, in my opinion, taste horrible. I can attest to that. Like, I've had buckets of hemp protein, and it's horrible. And I've eaten some horrible tasting protein powder over the last 20 years. I mean, back in the day, the nutritional supplements were just, I mean, you got tough just eating them because they were so disgusting. Now it's like candy. I mean, they come in like, you know, double chocolate and, you know, hot fudge sundae and s'mores flavor and all this kind of crazy stuff. But the like the article said, the vegetarian protein powders are they're not taste very good. But what I would say is, it wouldn't be a bad idea if you had the money to kind of mix them together a little bit. That might not be a bad idea, so you get the benefits out of all of them. But anyway, on with this. When you get into the supplement aisle, you will want to do some label reading. Bodybuilders generally have the goal of weight gain or fat loss. Weight gain powders contain high levels of carbohydrates and calories. Pure protein powders are used to aid in the loss of fat while maintaining muscle mass, and will have a low carbohydrate and fat count. First of all, look for a powder with ingredients that you can actually pronounce. Steer away from artificial sugars like aspartame, sucralose, and saccharin. Those are just another name for poison, and we're looking for real nutrients. And that's true. Look, protein powders are notorious for being loaded with artificial sweeteners. And what's the problem with artificial sweeteners? They're immunotoxins, people. Immunotoxins. They deplete and destroy your immune system. And what happens with a depleted, destroyed immune system? All kinds of stuff. Diabetes, cancer, the list goes on and on. You don't want to eat artificial sweeteners. You just don't. They're also the primary source of the sweetness in the artificial sweetener is E. coli fecal matter. So if that doesn't turn you off right there, well, have at it. Yes, that's a genetically modified process. They extract E. coli fecal matter to produce the sweetness in your aspartame. So next time you see that, you know what I'm talking about, that person that thinks they've got it all together and drinking their can of Diet Coke with their pinky out, you can just say, you like that fecal matter, don't you, honey? All right. So, where are we? Okay, yeah, so no protein powders with artificial sweeteners. And I just bought some without artificial sweeteners, and it's pretty damn good. And I cannot remember the name of it. That's not very good. If you want to know the name of it, email me and I'll send it to you. The front at live.com is email. All right. You also want to avoid processed sugars such as sucrose, high fructose corn syrup, brown rice syrup, and all those other oses. Cane sugar, honey, agave, and stevia are good natural sweeteners. Okay. So cane sugar, honey, agave, and stevia are good natural sweeteners, some of which add healthy carbohydrates. Actually, stevia is extremely sweet, and it is actually low on the glycemic index. I don't know how that happens, but it is. I believe it is anyways. And it's okay for diabetics as well. When you read the label, you're looking for at least 24 grams of protein per serving. The grams of fat depend on your personal goals. Because I use these powders all the time as a fitness supplement, I look for low-fat versions. However, if you're only storing these powders as shit-hit-the-fan food, the high-fat version may be what you're looking for. I would definitely agree with that. In fact, I'll go one further. I wouldn't buy protein powder for shit-hit-the-fan scenario. I would buy a weight gain powder because you're going to get a whole lot more calories per serving out of that than you will your protein powder. That's what I would do. But so when you read the label, okay, we already got that, and carefully read over the ingredients to make sure the product does not contain artificial sweeteners. If the carbs are high, you are checking for the OSs. And so how do you use your protein powder? Well, the simplest way to use protein powder is in a shake. You can mix it up with any fluid. I like to mix mine with coconut milk. A little bit of coconut milk, a little bit of water. Coconut milk for the potassium in it. We've talked about potassium on this show in relation to heart health. The simplest way to use protein powder is in a shake. You can mix with any fluid. Okay. If the situation is grid down, simply put 1 cup of water or milk in a jar with a lid, add a scoop of powder, and shake the daylights out of it until it's well mixed and the powder is dissolved. In a world without refrigeration, you can use a little bit of non-fat dry milk powder in the mixture as well. Protein drink is also a good way to ingest any liquid vitamin supplement that you might be using. That's the great thing about shakes, man. You can just throw all kinds of stuff in there. Just throw it all in and drink it up. And here they even give us a recipe. Let's check out their recipe. This protein powder recipe for a healthy snack requires no cooking, and the kids will love it. It's chocolate peanut butter balls, or yarbles. Chocolate peanut butter yarbles. Ingredients: 1 cup of chocolate protein powder, 1 cup of peanut butter, half a cup of honey, half a cup of oats. In a mixing bowl, combine all the ingredients, and you basically just make little balls out of it. It'll be disgusting, but in a shit-hit-the-fan scenario, it'll be goddamn delicious. Trust me. Not that I've been in one, but I've had a little taste of it. All right. Where are we here? We are... All right. Here's a little something I thought was interesting. I found this last week, I think. It was what your eyes say about your health. And maybe I thought it was interesting because I don't know a lot about this. So your eyes can indicate certain issues, certain health issues. Let's check this out. So some believe that dark circles under the eyes is an indication that one is not getting adequate sleep by staying up or watching too much TV, or simply just appear if we misbehave, which would be like excessive partying, or are under a great deal of stress. In other groups, dark circles are believed to be caused as a direct result of too much potassium in the diet. This may be true, but we haven't seen much evidence on this. Simply speaking, dark circles under your eyes is directly related to oxidizing hemoglobin. In other words, they manifest as a result of, quote, leaky capillaries and are visible due to the thin skin that covers the area under your eyes. Essentially, what this boils down to is that there is an issue with your liver. It is not working optimally. This may be due in part to genetics, allergies, or iron deficiency, all usually caused by what we are not ingesting, by what we are or are we not ingesting. Bags under the eyes. So I guess this doesn't really give us any insight into what exactly the problem with the liver could be, but or how to fix it. But we may want to look into a liver type cleanse. And what would that be? I know a liver cleanse, but alas, I cannot think of it. So search liver cleanse and try it if you have dark circles under your eyes. Bags or puffy eyes are usually present as a result of accumulated fat around the eye area. This happens when the septum surrounding the eyeball weakens, causing the outer layer of fat within the socket to sink forward, making it look like you have literal bags under your eyes. The underlying cause behind this phenomenon is an issue with your kidneys. Essentially, if your kidneys are not effectively cleaning toxins out of your body, physical signs will begin to manifest themselves, especially in and around the eyes. Some other studies suggest that puffiness is also an indicator of too much salt in the diet. Well, could be, but if you're taking enough potassium, we have the potassium-sodium gate, and that'll all stuff will all work itself out if you're taking enough water, and of course, add in some magnesium to balance out that potassium too. But don't take my word for it. Do some research and ask a health professional that has an idea about this kind of thing. Thank you for the cleanse stuff. Dandelion, yes. Turmeric. And I also remembered the apple cider vinegar is a good cleanse. And the bentonite clay. Bentonite clay is a great cleanse for your kidneys as well. And what else do we have here for some eye health? All right. Well, I'll post up this eye health article. You guys can go through the rest of the symptoms if you want to. I'll throw up on the Facebook page after the show. But here's my last health deal for the night, you guys. And this is something I thought everybody could get into, so I wanted to wrap up the show with this. It's basically train your body to burn fat, not store it. Okay. We're not going to go into some heavy-duty workout thing or anything like that. What we're just going to talk about is something known as metabolic syndrome, which is something that I was actually talking about earlier. If you have a wider waistline than you would like and are finding it almost impossible to whittle it down, again, you may be suffering from a common condition known as metabolic syndrome. This is a chemical imbalance in the body that puts stress on the metabolism, which results in the metabolic rate and the rate of fuel The rate of fuel being burned is reduced. The syndrome can be triggered by a reduction in glucose in the bloodstream over a period of time, such as when carbohydrates are reduced when weight loss attempts are being made. The body slows its processes down, requiring less energy to function, as it worries that the food shortage is going to be a long-lasting event. So your body starts to go into starvation mode when you starve it, and what it does is anything you take in, it stores as fat because it's saying, okay, it'll be like, okay, Darren, you're not feeding me, so eat that. I'm just going to throw it right on your love handle and save it for later when you don't feed me again. That's what happens. And one thing, the whole carbohydrate thing, when people start cutting out their carbohydrates and do like a Atkins type thing, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. What you're doing is you're cutting out a fuel source that your body converts the easiest, which would be carbohydrates. And you also get your initial weight drop off of a no-carb diet. You get your initial weight drop off of water flushing out of your system because like 1 gram of carbohydrates retains like 4 grams of water. And that water retention is not bad, people. When I say retains, don't freak out. You are made mostly up of water. Okay, so you want water in your system. Water helps the electrical processes in our body be more efficient. So you want water in your system. It's just that I'm just trying to make the point that the Atkins type approach it does not work. Yes, if you stick with it, you will become a smaller version of your flabby self. That's what will happen to you. And that's not attractive. So anyway, resistance training, people. It's all resistance training. That's what our bodies respond to the most. That's what they're designed to do. They're designed to move and lift and turn and jump and all that stuff. They're not designed to sit at a desk, All right. So causing stress to your metabolism is a hidden defeating factor that can cause even the most dedicated person trying to lose fat weight to have the brakes slammed on, resulting in little to no success. Many people experiencing this damage but rarely know or understand what it is or what causes metabolic stress. Some of the damage that the muscle cells is that the muscle cells become resistant to the hormone insulin. And you don't want that to happen if you're trying to gain lean muscle or if you're just trying to retain it, which all of us want. Muscle gives us curve and shape, Fat just hangs there like putting in a plastic bag. That's your fat. If you had a pound of fat on the table and a pound of muscle on the table, the pound of muscle would have some type of retained shape. The pound of fat would just drip and run all over the table onto the floor. So anyway, what do we have here? Okay, so this your muscle cells become resistant to the hormone insulin. This causes the body to respond less effectively to insulin that it is needed to push the remaining glucose that is present in the bloodstream into the cells to be used for energy. When the muscle cells cannot take the sugar, it means there will be a higher blood sugar level as well as a higher insulin level, which is a recipe for fat storage extraordinaire or diabetes, right? Because your muscles want to use that sugar. So when you take that sugar into your system, if your muscles aren't going to use it, it's going to stay in the bloodstream and elevate your blood sugar levels. We don't want that. Okay? We want nice, even blood sugar levels. That keeps us happy. It keeps us in a good mood. It keeps us full of energy. Unstable blood sugar levels, people have been related to the diagnosis of clinical psychosis. And clinical psychosis has actually been treated by the stabilization of blood sugar levels alone. All right? Now you start to think about all the foods that are out there on the shelves for people. Does not help with maintaining proper blood sugar levels. I mean, if you're experiencing any type of health issues, I don't mean extreme stuff, but things, you're not feeling good, all this other stuff, you feel lazy, you feel tired in the middle of the day, all this stuff, you have to understand it's what you're eating or not eating. So, if you should be going on and off any type of restricted food diets, like a yo-yo effect, this will make the situation worse, as blood sugar levels will rise and fall rapidly, putting the further stress on the metabolism. You are likely to develop serious health problems if this situation continues, and you may already be experiencing signs of physical distress, such as high blood pressure, high blood sugar, and fats, trouble sleeping, fatigue, and reduced energy, just like I just said. If left unchecked, these conditions can lead to heart disease from the damage being inflicted on the cardiovascular system. The reduction in energy because of a slowed metabolism and reduced use of the body's primary energy source, glucose, means you will have little energy to be active and exercise. So that aspect is working against healthy fat weight loss as well. Proper exercise, such as strength training, is exactly what you need to rebuild and increase your metabolism. This would allow you to burn off additional stored calories, which are the cause of your weight problems, in a healthy, effective manner. One thing about when it says such as strength training, it doesn't mean you have to hold a weight in your hand. Body weight training can kick your butt. I mean, I have a little leg matrix, I call it, that if you can do it in 90 seconds, you're a superhero. But you're more likely to get it done under 2 minutes. And when you finish it in less than 2 minutes, I promise you will crawl away from me if I have you do it. And it's just body weight. And I can take the biggest, strongest guy in the or that you see in the gym and put him through the exact same thing that I would put you through, and he will end up in the same situation. Because with body weight exercises, everybody works to their own potential. So if I had this big, strong person and I want him to rep off, 20 squats with just his body weight, and he's used to squatting 405 pounds, well, he's going to go up and down real fast. But he's doing himself in by doing that, because he's going to try to beat my 90-second mark. You see what I'm doing? All right, anyway. So I actually had, this is a true story, I had one of the biggest guys in the gym one time. He wanted to be a personal trainer, so he was shadowing me and for a couple appointments that I had. And I was putting one of my women that I had been training for a while, and she was in really good shape. She was strong, and I would put her up against any guy in the gym for performance. This girl was doing really well. And so I had her finish off her workout with this leg matrix, and he wanted to try it. Okay, this guy was he was over 6 feet, and he was a couple hundred, I don't know, 230. He was a big kid, and he was young. He was in his early 20s. Big arms, big legs, whatever. He said, I want to try it too. Well, he didn't even make it through the first quarter of it. He actually fell on the ground. So I'm just advocating body weight exercises, especially for people that are intimidated by a gym. And here's a great website for you guys. There's a website called bodyrock.tv, and they have a lot of great home body weight workouts that are butt kickers. And I've used their stuff a million times training my own clients. It's a great website, bodyrock.tv. Check out their workouts for body weight stuff. You can do it right in your living room. It takes 20 minutes, and I promise it'll do what you want it to do. But anyway, back to metabolic syndrome. Where am I here? Okay, so proper exercise is strength training, exactly what you need. All right, so but you need energy to do that, as you need to be able to put some effort into your exercise program to make the changes to your metabolism to, quote, rebalance it. You want it to be burning fat and sugar efficiently, not storing it. Proper exercise is a critical component of dealing with the symptoms of metabolic syndrome, as it boosts metabolism, increases insulin sensitivity, and helps rebalance glucose and insulin. Choosing a natural, balanced, healthy diet and ditching the processed food is the next important factor in correcting the situation and coaxing your body to give up its fat stores. Any chemicals in processed foods will continue to throw your body's hormones out of whack while you continue to eat them. Those two changes, proper exercise and proper nutrition, will go a very long way in getting you back onto the fat loss track and making you feel a whole lot better. I will be posting this article up. All right, everybody. So, look, the thing is, it's just, you know, we have to go into these things because we don't use our bodies like we used to. We stand in one place for most of our jobs. I mean, if you have an active job, that's great, okay? But a lot of us don't. And a lot of times the active job people are in horrible shape too. You know, I used to get guys as training clients and be like, hey, you know, I do construction all day. I don't really need to work out. And the guy has a huge gut. And I'm like, well, if your job did it, you know, if working construction got people in good shape, then every time you drove by a house being worked on, it looked like Chippendales was building it, right? But it doesn't. So anyway, you have to go outside your comfort zone, people, to make changes. And if you do something laborious for a job, your body has already adjusted to that. All right. So anyways. Look, hey, I was nervous about coming back and doing the show, but I think it went okay, except for that audio glitch in the beginning. I will be back Thursday night. I thank you guys. Stay safe and take these words of wisdom to heart, everybody. Thanks for being here.
Your choice is simple. Join us and live in peace, or pursue your present course and face obliteration. We shall be waiting for your answer. The decision rests with you.